Did I ever tell you the story about my cravings for Thin Mints and how it got to the point that my coworkers would actually buy Thin Mints, those Girl Scout Thin Mints, and set them on my desk just to see me fight my cravings? So many of you know me as, healthy doctor, promoting lifestyle medicine, eating healthy plans, all that good stuff. Little do you know, there are a few foods that are serious triggers for me, and those are those Thin Mint chocolate cookies. They're like little evil things that make me want to eat them. So, I totally appreciate the craving piece here, right? So, if you have ever been caught up in this cravings and they just keep sabotaging your weight loss, well, here's some thoughts around them. I'm going to teach you about emotional triggers and what to do about them and all these things that intervene when it comes to cravings. And I literally have conversations with patients about this all the time and how they do so well for a short period of time and then they struggle. And it just seems like it's this endless cycle that just will not end. And so when we think about it, cravings and emotional eating can feel like the biggest obstacles to your path to healthier living and weight loss, right? Basically, we find ourselves repeatedly falling into the cycle of either like stress eating or eating out of boredom or just needing a break to go do something. And like literally, the refrigerator's right there, the cabinet's right there. So many of us work at home now, and we can experience these intense cravings even after doing something healthy. Like maybe we just signed up for a gym and we're driving home and we see, the grocery suddenly the wheel is turning and the grocery store or wherever we need to go is it's literally pulling us into the parking lot, and you start having these experiencing guilt and shame and like what is going on, like I know this is not what I want to do, but it gets stronger and stronger. It's like this, you're battling against your own body, right? It just feels like it's a never ending cycle. Well, there's some really interesting strategies. So I really helped people to understand that they're not their cravings, they're not their emotions, and how to step aside and be the observer of that. But we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, what I think we're experiencing here is that we're just finding we're eating responses to emotions, right? Stress, boredom, anxiety, you name it. Again, can lead to that cycle that can really undermine your total mental and physical health. You feel trapped. You feel like you just keep falling into the same hole, and you climb out and you jump right back in, and it's like you just can't help yourself. And I think what at least you really desire is this natural and fulfilling way of eating, right? That you feel satiated and that food is your sense of joy and not stress, right? We don't want to be just constantly thinking about food. That we don't want to fight it. We want to be able to eat it and feel nourished by it, and that it's a companion to a good, healthy life, not an enemy that we have to fight at every meal. And so, that's the really important piece, is to understand, well, what is the science behind craving? Well, cravings are influenced by a few different things. There's hormonal fluctuations, there's emotional states, environmental cues, so many of it there's so many things that we can't control around us. And sometimes, on occasion, nutritional deficiencies, but that is less of the case. I really want to encourage you to think about when you think about being effectual or being effective in decisions that you're making, understand there's going to be things that you can control and there's things that you can't control. And I want you to focus on the things that you can control and just ignore those things you can't. Yes, people are going to make comments to you. Yes, you might deal with commercials and different things, but you can decide what goes in front of you, what you decide to watch on media. You can decide on how you interact with those emotions and the cravings and that buildup of impulse. So again, just want you to be understanding there's going to be some things that you can control and some things you can't, and just accept that. And when you accept it, it does get easier, right? You're letting go of the resistance. And it's not that you have to fall victim to these things, but at least when you accept the fact that there are just some things we can't control in this life, and around certain things like your environment outside of, let's say, your home, that alone will decrease your stress by a lot. Let's talk a little bit more about the few things I mentioned that cravings are influenced by. So first of all, you have hormonal influence, right? So hormones like leptin and ghrelin, which these regulate hunger and fullness, and they can become imbalanced, and that can lead to persistent cravings. What can affect those? Your messed up sleep, stress. Again, lots of different things can occur that can cause this hormone imbalance. If you have obesity, you can also have leptin resistance, right? So your body's hormones saying, hey, I'm full, the body doesn't listen to it. I'm going to tell you what to do about that here in a minute. Next is sensory stimuli, right? We see and smell food. It activates memories and emotional responses. Remember, your brain is just trying to get you to feel better. So if it thinks there's something that will make you feel good, like, those Cinnabons and they're that smell that just overtakes your body and like pulls you like you're mesmerized to the counter and say, give me one now, even though they're full, like there's over 800 calories per Cinnabon. Anyway, those things can absolutely be an issue. And the important thing is to understand, again, when we recognize it, and we'll get to the strategies here in a minute. There's also potentially some nutritional deficiencies, which might make you crave certain things, but I don't want to dive into that because that would be more nuanced and should require labs and different things. With that, I think some other root causes would be emotional dependency on food. Maybe we've used food for, again, stress reduction, and you can get into this habit of wanting to eat that again to get that dopamine release. We get very restrictive dieting, right? So severe diet limitations can intensify cravings because remember, if we fight something, it seems to grow. And then just kind of a lack of emotional awareness, right? With when we just allow emotions to overtake us and we don't handle them very well, we don't have good self-regulatory or emotional regulation, that can make it really hard not to turn to food for comfort because it's the one thing we can control is what goes in our mouths, right? And I've had patients tell me that when they were younger, when they were in a very stressful childhood environment, that food was the one thing that they could control, and they would hide food and eat it and literally say in the closet, because that was the one thing that they could control and would comfort them. And they created this world, and so there was this really interesting relationship with certain types of foods. So anyway, so that's kind of the bigger picture of what's occurring with the cravings. There's emotional, environmental stimuli, the way the foods are actually manufactured. It will also cause you to be more addicted to this ultra processed foods. So again, I almost call these aren't even real foods. They're like Franken foods. They're food-like substances that food corporations have created in order to hit the certain receptors in your brain to make you want it even more. But let's talk a little bit. I think a lot of us understand that cravings come and there's a lot of things that factor them. But what are some of the counterintuitive solutions to manage cravings? So, we really can't rely on willpower. Willpower is a finicky friend. It comes by when it wants. You have very limited supply. There's even some suggestions that willpower doesn't exist. This is not that discussion, but I just wanted to highlight that willpower is not the answer, right? We can't just white knuckle our way through that because, again, it seems to intensify when we do that. So a couple of things that we can do is mindful practice. And what does that mean? So mindfulness requires you, or doesn't even require, it's not even a doing, it's an awareness, right? So there are some strategies that you can incorporate when you're not under stress, is just being present in the current moment. And what does that look like? Well, when you are thinking about something in the future, right? You're not in the present moment, or you're thinking about something in the past. Maybe you're having regret about something, or maybe something in the future, you're worried about something, you're creating these stories, right? So this is outside of the present moment. The present moment, if you take a few ways to do that, is to take some deep breaths. But it's not taking some deep breaths and keep thinking about it. It's literally thinking, okay, I feel my chest rising, and I feel my chest coming, right? And do that for maybe 2 or 3 times. And what that does is that will bring you to the present moment. That is mindfulness. You're in the present moment. And when you feel the cravings arising, right? So maybe it's anxiety feeling, or maybe that's a worry, or just overall just like feeling like you're just tense and just contracted, right? When you feel that arising, that's the piece that when you feel it, you're physically and emotionally, you take some of those breaths and you will start to see that lessen. You're giving space around that craving or that emotion, right? Before it kicks into the behavior of the eating and searching for something to comfort, to quell it. That is the mindful practice. That's it on a very, very quick level. Another thing that might be very helpful to help with cravings, especially if you eat something and then you're like a few hours like, man, I'm craving sweets or like highly refined carbohydrates, is increasing the amount of protein in your food. And eating breakfast, especially, could be very helpful. A little bit more protein in your breakfast that might help quell some of the cravings that you're having for some of those sweets in between meals. That seems to work for most of my patients, by the way. So this is going to be including legumes or whole grains into that morning meal. Tofu scrambles with veggies, that's a fantastic one to do. But again, just some ideas there for you on that piece. And then really making sure that you're not being restrictive in your caloric intake, that you're eating enough calories to sustain a healthy weight. If you're diving below, if you're a woman, most women need above 1200 or above to be in a healthy state. You might need 1500 or 1600 to be in a healthy state. We'll just leave it at that. I have a whole process of when you determine how many calories you need and to significantly lose weight, but making sure you're not being too restrictive and that you're eating a wide variety of whole plant foods, fruits, veggies, beans, whole grains, and nuts and seeds, and healthy fats. Those are really important for brain health, and they also help satiate you. They're very low glycemic. But again, just a handful, maybe a quarter cup for women, maybe half a cup for men. Again, it really just depends on your nutritional needs. Scheduling your meals and not snacking would also be very helpful. So your body can become adjusted to your meal times. What they found is that you do better. You're more insulin sensitive in the morning. So making sure you're eating breakfast and lunch, those are your larger meals of the day, and a smaller dinner would be very helpful. And in addition to that, think about if you're really struggling with um, a particular thing that you just don't want to give up, is there a healthy substitute for whatever that is that you would still feel good about consuming, and but maybe would satisfy one of those cravings? So there's just some additional ideas, but I think the really important piece here is just really thinking about the mindfulness piece, because that is absolutely a muscle that many of us need to flex more often. And that's kind of the unconventional way I like to encourage people to do this. And I just want to get back to that feeling and that intense desire that you may come. Think about it this way: you are not the feeling, you're not the thoughts. Okay, these are entities all by themselves. They're coming in, they visit, and then they leave, right? It's like there's that commercial Mayhem. I can't remember which insurance is it? I can't recall. But anyway, maybe it's Allstate. I don't recall. But the guy Mayhem, and he goes around and he causes all sorts of issues. That's what these thoughts and cravings are, right? They come in and they cause mayhem. They make a wreck and then they leave. And then they come back again. It's like they go to sleep and then they wake up. And there's little things that poke at them, right? So the way to think about this is maybe considering giving it a name. And the reason I say this is that we want to turn this almost into humorous, right? And so instead of being afraid of the craving or the desire or whatever you want to call it, let's say we call it, I don't know, Greta. I apologize if anyone's watching who's named Greta. I'm just coming up with the name, Greta. And Greta is grumpy, right? So whenever Greta comes to visit, so let's say Greta is my Thin Mint craving. So when I'm walking by and I pull up and I see the little Girl Scouts out in front, there's only one way into the store and they're selling Thin Mints. And I feel Greta. She's like, oh, Lori, you know those would be good. I was like, I hear you, Greta. But Lori, you know they'd be so good. You should just get one box. It's just one box. Greta, I hear you. Thank you, but I really don't want to eat them. But Lori, you hear them. They're so good. So now you know there's this discussion going on in your head. At least that's the discussion in my head. Please don't hold it against me if this hasn't happened to you. This is what's going on. I say, well, Greta, this is what I'm going to do. I know I don't want to grab a box because one, they're ultra processed food. Two, I will eat the entire box. It's not just one sleeve. They come in these little sleeves. There's two of them in a box. I will eat all of them, and then I will feel sick, and then I won't feel well. So Greta, what I'm going to do, I still want to support the Girl Scouts because I think they're a really cool thing that they do to young women, and they help teach them leadership skills and things like that. I'm just going to give them money. So what I do is I take out whatever cash I have and I give them and donate them. I say, keep your cookies, which is great because they can sell them to someone else. They always are very thankful. I was like, thank you, but I can't eat your cookies. And I give it to them. And I go in and I feel good. One, that I'm not listening to Greta. Greta and I had a conversation. I wasn't fighting Greta, but I was just saying, Greta, I'm going to do something else that will make me still feel good and allow me to support the Girl Scouts without indulging in something I know I won't feel well physically, mentally, or about later. So that is how you can engage the craving, name the craving, create it as a separate entity, knowing that it's not you, it's Greta. And so that allows you to have this very different approach. And that is one of the strategies I like to teach with my patients and people that enroll in different courses with me, which gets me to my free masterclass, which is below, by the way. It is completely free. It's called the 5 steps to mastering your metabolism and losing weight or lose weight. In there, you're going to learn the 4 mistakes that most people make on their weight loss journey, and then my framework to help people understand how they can really dive into what's going on with them and create a personalized plan, and then how to do that. So check it out if you'd like. Again, like I said, the link is below. If you're on Instagram, it's in the bio. And thanks for listening. I hope you found this helpful. And please forgive me, anybody out there, like I said, whose name is Greta. But that's Greta for me and the Thin Mints. So again, as always, I thank you guys for being here. I'm so appreciative of your time. I'm sending you love, joy, peace, and above all, healing, because honestly, we need so much more of that in my life, in our lives, in my life too. Have a beautiful weekend. I'm just so happy to have you here. But like I said, please click below, check out the webinar, and it's free. Please share it with anyone who you think might benefit from it. I put a lot of hard work into it, and I hope you enjoy it. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate you as always, and take care.